India denounced Pakistan for its handling of the visit of the wife and mother of Indian man on death row, saying they were harassed and prevented from talking to the prisoner freely. Spokesperson for Pakistan's foreign ministry did not respond to requests for comments on the issue. Kulbhushan Jadhav's mother and wife were allowed to meet him behind a glass window on Monday, 8 months after he had been sentenced to death. Family of Indian soldier who was killed by Pakistani troops in Indian Kashmir hailed the army's retaliatory attack on Tuesday. Pakistani troops had killed 4 Indian soldiers in Rajouri area of Indian Kashmir on Saturday. In retaliation, Indian troops crossed the line of control, a de facto border, and killed 3 Pakistani troops. A 3-year-old girl trapped in a borewell pit for 8 hours was rescued in Angul district of India's eastern Odisha state. Radha was rescued from a 50 meters borewell pit by Fire Brigade and Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force teams with the help of local residents. Radha had accidentally fallen into an open borewell pit while playing. People in southern Chennai city on Tuesday paid tribute to the victims of the Indian Ocean tsunami that killed around 226,000 people in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand and 9 other countries. On its 13th anniversary, survivors and family members of the victims took out a march. They lit candles, poured milk into the sea and prayed for the souls of the victims who perished away in the disaster. A Tibetan man died after setting himself on fire to protest against repressive policies of Chinese government. According to the media, the man set himself on fire in Gaba in northeastern Tibet and succumbed to his injuries a day later. More than 150 Tibetans have self-immolated in protest against Chinese rule, mostly in Tibetan areas of Sichuan, Gansu and Qinghai provinces, rather than in what China terms the Tibet Autonomous Region. A 98-year-old man received his postgraduate degree in economics from an Indian Open University in eastern Patna city on Tuesday. Vaishya received his degree during the convocation ceremony of Nalanda Open University. He had said that he's been trying to send a message to the youth that defeat should never be accepted. The 98-year-old student passed his matriculation on examination in 1934 and completed his graduation in 1938. Indian shares ended at an all-time high on Tuesday as benchmark Bombay Stock Exchange Sensex breached the 34,000 mark for the first time, while the broader NSE Nifty rose 0.37% to close at an all-time high of 10,531. BSE Chief Executive Officer said the federal government's initiatives like demonetization and a new national sales tax were some of the reasons which helped Sensex conquer the 34,000 mark. Indian actress Priyanka Chopra said that she was proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with her male counterparts as the Baywatch star weighed in the gender pay parity gap in Bollywood during an event in New Delhi. Chopra was ranked 7th in the list with total gross earnings of about $11 million. She said women should always aim higher and set a higher standard to become successful. Hours after Moscow offered to mediate between North Korea and the United States, the Russian foreign minister has said that his US counterpart Rex Tillerson discussed the crisis in the Korean peninsula in a telephonic conversation. Lavrov during the talk stressed upon the urgent need to begin a negotiation process. The US administration has announced significant budget cut for the United Nations in 2018-19 following a UN General Assembly vote in Jerusalem. US Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley announced that UN's upcoming year's budget will be slashed by $285 million. A senior militant commander from the Taliban-allied Haqqani network has been killed in a US drone strike along Pakistan-Afghan border, though it's not immediately clear whether the missile struck on the Afghan or Pakistani side of the border, but reports suggest that Maulvi Jamuddin was in Pakistan's Kuram region when the strike took place. Hundreds of Russian celebrities, sports people and politicians gathered in Moscow on Tuesday and formally nominated President Vladimir Putin for re-election in March next year. The ruling United Russia Party and the Just Russia Party have both said that they will support him. On Tuesday, 668 high-profile supporters pledged to back Putin above the minimum 500 required to initiate a presidential bid. Peru's former authoritarian president Alberto Fujimori asked for forgiveness from the bottom of his heart to Peruvians. He acknowledged having disappointed and thanked President Pedro Pablo for granting him a pardon on Christmas Eve. Fujimori, speaking from a hospital bed, promised that as a free man he would support the current president's call for the country's reconciliation. Former Peruvian President Alberto Fujimori has been transferred out of intensive care where he had been admitted on Saturday. The doctor said Fujimori is an intermediary unit where his progress is being monitored. Fujimori's discharge depends on the progress of his recovery. A JetBlue Airways passenger plane skidded off an icy taxiway after landing at Boston's Logan International Airport on Monday night, but no injuries were reported. The mishap involving an Airbus A320 occurred around 7:15 p.m. as Flight 50 from Savannah, Georgia touched down in Boston when nearly 3 inches of snow had fallen earlier in the day. Earlier departures and arrivals were halted at the Logan International Airport for about an hour as snow reduced visibility to near zero. Liberia's presidential runoff had gone without any major incidents and was better organized than the first round, which led the party in the third place to allege electoral fraud. National Elections Commission chairperson said the election went on with no major incidents to report and voting was peaceful. Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono met with his Jordanian counterpart in Amman on Tuesday. The two officials were expected to discuss bilateral ties and regional development, including the recent U.S. decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Kono arrived in Jordan after visiting Israel and the West Bank, where he met with Israeli and Palestinian leaders. Next, he is expected to fly to Turkey and Oman. Jordan's King Abdullah took part in a military exercise held recently in the country, which is located in a region rife with violence and instability. During the drill, King Abdullah fired a rifle with live ammunition. The king is trained at the Royal Military Academy at Sandurs, Britain, and served in the Jordanian Army as well as in the Royal Jordanian Air Force. Russia has started establishing a permanent military presence at naval and air bases in Syria as Parliament ratified a deal with Damascus to cement Russian presence in the country. The deal signed on January 18th will expand the Tartus naval facility, Russia's only naval foothold in the Mediterranean, and grant Russian warships access to Syrian waters and ports. China and Pakistan will look at extending their $57 billion China-Pakistan economic corridor to Afghanistan. This as part of China's ambitious Belt and Road plan linking China with Asia, Europe and beyond. It's tried to position itself as a helpful party to promote talks between Pakistan and Afghanistan, both uneasy neighbours ever since Pakistan's independence in 1947. Chinese President Xi Jinping has stressed full implementation of major tasks set at the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China and the integrity of leading officials. Xi, also General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, made the remarks at a meeting with members of the Political Bureau of CPC Central Committee held on Monday and Tuesday. Xi said the priority for all members of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee is to implement the task and realize the goals set at the 19th CPC National Congress. China said that it will offer assistance to the Philippines in the post-storm disaster relief and home reconstruction. Storm Tembin battered the southern Philippine island of Mindanao on Friday, triggering floods and mudslides in the region, leaving more than 200 people dead and more than 150 others missing, and more than 70,000 people were rendered homeless. China aims to cut 150 million tons of surplus coal capacity in 2018 by 2020. China projects to abolish or postpone 150 million kilowatt of coal power projects, weed out 20 million kilowatt of outdated coal power capacity, and slash down the installed capacity proportion to 55%. An 800 kilovolt ultra-high voltage direct current converter station at an elevation of 2,329 meters, the highest for such station in the world, began operation in southwest China's Yunnan province. It is part of the country's effort to promote the use of clean energy. It's designed to transmit 20 billion kilowatt hours of electricity annually, amounting to a quarter of the annual total electricity consumed by the city of Shenzhen. One of the towers within the high-voltage power grid traversing the Yangtze River was detonated in Wuhan city. Outdated power lines that once connected to the tower were demolished last month in preparing for detonation of the tower, after the local government announced in late November to dismantle the power grid in a bid to ensure the navigation and safety on the river. Around 150 migrants have set up an improvised camp using light tents and wind shelters in the so-called no man's land between Serbia and Croatia, and is demanding passage to Croatia and further to the European Union. Croatian police deployed a unit in riot gear to block the migrants, including women and children, from marching across the boundary. The people stopped in front of the cordon, chanting for the border to open. No incidents occurred. Serbia is scrambling to cope with human trafficking as more and more refugees have been shut out of other European countries. Head of the Anti-Smuggling Bureau of the Serbian Customs said that they are intensifying inspection and checks of passing vehicles. He said that they would carry out scores or even 100 times of checks a day. And over the past year, they have found human traffickers in addition to drugs and other smuggled goods. A man alleged to be behind the murder of this year of crime reporter in northern Mexico has been arrested by federal police. The suspect was detained in the neighboring border state of Sonora on Monday and was allegedly the intellectual author of the murder of journalist Miroslava Breach. She was shot several times as she drove out of her garage on March 23rd. The parents of Mexico's missing 43 students marched towards the Basilica of Guadalupe on Tuesday in search for justice for their loved ones. 39 months after the feared massacre, the students went missing in the town of Iguala in the southwestern state of Guerrero on September 26 in 2014 after clashing with police and masked men. The government's account stated that the 43 were abducted by corrupt police and handed over to suspected members of local drug cartel, who then killed them, incinerated the bodies and threw their ashes into a river. Venezuelan authorities said that they had arrested 28 people in southern Bolivar state for looting and disorder over Christmas in the latest unrest during a severe economic crisis. There have been scattered protests and roadblocks around the South American OPEC nation in recent days over food shortage, power cuts, high fuels and fuel rationing. Long lines of Venezuelans waiting outside banks and ATM machines to access cash have become common scenes throughout the capital city, Caracas, as the country's economy continues to fall and inflation continues to skyrocket. For a decade and a half, strict exchange controls have severely limited access to dollars. A black market in hard currency has spread in response, and as once sky-high oil revenue runs dry, Venezuela's economy is struggling. Alberto Nisman, the Argentine prosecutor who was found dead days after accusing former President Cristina Fernandez of covering up Iran's role in the 1994 bombing of a Jewish community center, has been murdered. In a 656-page ruling, the judge said that there was sufficient proof to conclude that the shot to the head that killed Niesman in January 2015 was not self-inflicted. The death had been classified as a suicide, but a prosecution is investigating the case last year recommended that the case be pursued as a murder probe. A flooded river washed away a bridge on a highway in eastern Bolivia in the early hours of Christmas Day. The bridge collapsed suddenly and a man driving a truck along the highway fell into the river and was washed away, but was rescued by witnesses. The highway is an important link between the Department of Santa Cruz and Beni, and a sub-governor of Santa Cruz informed the media that machinery was en route to repair the bridge. A 1-meter-long freshwater crocodile was found wandering on a footpath in a Melbourne suburb. Much to the surprise of the police, unsure what to do with the animal, the police called in a professional reptile catcher, Mark Pelly, to corral the crocodile. Victoria police are unsure whether the reptile came from and are presuming it was a pet. Triple suns shined above the sky in Heilun city of northeast China on Monday morning, mesmerizing residents in the area. The celestial illusion appeared at around 8:30 with two smaller suns on each side of a bigger one. The phenomenon lasted for about 15 minutes. As the real sun rose, the two adjacent suns gradually disappeared. The astronomical name of the phenomenon is called parhelion, which is formed under complicated conditions including stable atmospheric clouds, lots of steam and particular angles shaped on ice crystals. The winter fishing season officially kicked off at Shagan Lake in northeast China. Shagan Lake, which is one of the largest freshwater lakes in China, covers an area of almost 500 square kilometers, and the practice of winter fishing goes back nearly 2,000 years. Snowstorm hit northern Japan on Tuesday, turning the northernmost prefecture of Hokkaido into white and disrupting traffic. Vehicles were affected in another city of Noyoro in Hokkaido, warning local Met agencies warning of more snowfall, avalanches, high waves and disruptions to traffic. Erie, Pennsylvania was hit with 53 inches of snow from Sunday until Tuesday morning. Videos uploaded to social media shows backyards completely covered by snow, buried cars and dogs running in the snow. Local authorities have declared a state of emergency. Keen bargainers lined up in front of shops in London and New York for traditional Boxing Day sales, but this year's Boxing Day sales will suffer as 37% of shoppers chose to bargain on Black Friday instead. According to reports, the survey showed that because more shoppers spent on Black Day this year compared to last year, less people can afford to spend again on Boxing Day. Pope Francis conducted the Angelus prayer on Tuesday, reminding visitors that it was the day to celebrate Saint Stephen, the first martyr of the Catholic Church. The leader of the world's 1.2 billion Roman Catholics said in his Christmas message that the world was whipped by winds of war, urging a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and peace for the contested city of Jerusalem. Dozens of runners joined the 19th annual Roast Goose Digestion Run in Berlin on Tuesday, aiming to burn all the calories after all the holiday celebrations. Roast goose, which is not light on calories, is a traditional Christmas food in Germany, served with red cabbage, kale and potato dumplings. According to organizers, 220 people took part in the run.